what neighbors and police sources are telling us, this is just an absolutely horrific situation. When we got here on the scene, we could see dozens of police officers going in and out of this building, alarms going off, and at the time we were just trying to figure out what was going on. Now police sources as well as neighbors confirmed to us that 2 young boys, one woman told us these boys were just 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, have died. Their parents, both of them, are in custody. The boys, according to police sources, were found in a bathtub in their apartment, and some sort of object may have been used to stab them. I'm going to step out of the way for a second. You can see at this apartment here in the Bronx that police are still here going through and investigating. This is an apartment building located in Mount Hope. And I tell you, we wouldn't have this many police officers here, certainly this many police officers of major ranks, if there wasn't some serious incident being investigated right now. As we take you over to the video, here's what you're going to see in the first few moments after police and emergency vehicles were called out. You can see there are ambulances here that were just lined up and down the road along with other emergency vehicles. This incident happened this evening at the Concourse Gardens apartment building. It's located at the Bronx's Mount Hope near Grand Concourse and East Tremont Avenue. Neighbors tell us that the apartment where this incident happened has had a number of domestic issues. Police knew this family, and unfortunately, neighbors tell us they knew they had frequent troubles as well. We spoke to one woman who tells us she saw these boys being taken out of their apartment by their horrified father.
I heard the father screaming in the hallways, screaming, "Help me, help me." And that's when he brought the 2 boys out. They was lifeless, there was blood all over them. They were already gone when I came in the hallway.
Any idea what had happened to them?
I heard they was arguing and fighting earlier, and so they were supposed to. I guess another neighbor went down to, see what was going on, what was happening. But by then, she already did what she did to the boys. It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm not even gonna get no sleep tonight. It's horrible. I can't even fathom this. It's a sad situation, That's right. Very sad.
Well, it's not just neighbors that were shaken up out here. When we got on the scene, we could see a number of officers that were noticeably distraught after having seen what they witnessed, potentially with these young boys. Again, as we mentioned, both parents of these 2 young boys are in custody, but police sources say that only the mother, they believe, is responsible for this grisly act.
Breaking news happening right now in the Mount Hope neighborhood of the Bronx. 2 children are dead, victims of a double murder. Their mother in custody tonight. Both of the children younger than 5 years old.
Well, Joe, 2 young children were murdered, a baby and a toddler. Police say they were both stabbed in their necks. It happened here at 246 Echo Place in the Bronx around 7:20 p.m. tonight. Police say when they arrived, a woman was acting irrationally and took her into custody. Sources say that person is the children's mother, and that this call initially came over as a carbon monoxide call, and that firefighters responded because the mother turned on the water in the apartment and tried to burn the place down with the stove. Neighbors who live down the hall say the walls in the building are thin. They say they heard the parents of the boys arguing and screaming earlier tonight. Then they heard the boy's father hysterically crying for help. What you're about to hear about how the father cried for help is both horrific and deeply upsetting.
He said she killed them.
It was shocking. Like, it was 2 kids, 2 small kids.
He was screaming hysterically, screaming, "Help me." And I came in to open my door and I seen him coming down the hall with the 2 boys in his arms.
And what did they look like?
They were dead. They were dead. There was blood everywhere, covered them.
The boys were rushed to Columbia Presbyterian in extremely critical condition where they later died.
Police are giving an update.
Officers arrived and found a 24-year-old female naked inside of the apartment on the 3rd floor, acting irrational. The officers took the female into custody without incident and awaited the response of the ambulance. Once the ambulance arrived, the female was transported to St. Barnabas Hospital for evaluation at approximately 7:50 p.m. Prior to leaving for the hospital, a family friend informed officers that the Aided's children were with their father. Shortly after, the female was transported around 7:55 p.m. A second 911 call was received reporting 2 unresponsive babies not breathing at the same location. Patrol officers returned to the apartment where they found an 11-month-old baby boy and a 3-year-old male unresponsive with stab wounds, multiple stab wounds about the body. Officers and another family member attempted to resuscitate the children until the ambulance arrived. The 2 children were removed to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital for treatment. Despite the officer's best efforts, both children succumbed to their injuries. At this time, we have a person of interest in custody, and the investigation is ongoing. I will take a few questions.
Hold on. The children's mother, is she the one that is in custody? And can you just describe what is alleged to her? Did she commit this?
The 24-year-old mother is the one in custody, and it's still under investigation.
What about the father?
The father is not in custody.
And can you take the second phone call came at what time? And was made by
The first phone call came around 7:21, and I believe the second call was shortly before 8 o'clock.
Question right here.
Well, was the suspect involved? Had any previous criminal record?
No, she has not been arrested.
Any mental issues with the mother at all?
Not that we know of at this time.
Yeah, is the complex shelter system?
It is a family shelter.
Question right here.
The mother described any previous arguments during the day, any cause of argument?
That's still under investigation.
Any domestic violence calls or anything to the location in the past?
There was one incident in the past, but it was a couple of years ago.
Question out here.
Do you know how many stab wounds and where exactly?
Multiple stab wounds to the neck and torso of both children.
If I may just ask, it being 2 days after Thanksgiving, a troubling scene for officers responding to a scene like that, how do you process something so difficult? Young babies? Can you just speak to that, the trauma?
I don't think that's something you can ever get used to. We all process in our own ways. The police officers responded. I think they did a great job, and it's something that that they're going to have to live with and think about probably for the rest of their lives. But we have very experienced police officers. I think they're the best, and they're able to handle and cope with any situation.
Thank you, Chief.
Can you just spell your name, please?
DeSeglie is D-E space capital C-E-G-L-I-E. First name Lewis.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, everyone.
NYPD giving us an update on the 2 children killed tonight in the Bronx. A source tells us that it happened at a family shelter at around 8 p.m. this evening. The children's mother, police confirmed, was taken into custody. However, no charges have yet been filed. 2 children stabbed to death in the Bronx, and police say they think they know who killed them. A horrific scene in the Mount Hope section of the Bronx this evening. 2 children are dead, and police believe their mother is responsible. CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram is there. And Jennifer, what are you learning?
Natalie, this is just one of those stories that really tug at your heartstrings. Police say 2 kids, one as young as a year old, the other 3 years old, were both found dead inside of their Bronx apartment. I'll get out of the way so you can take a look at the scene at this hour. This investigation far from over. Police have been here for hours. We are expected to hear more from police from a press conference in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, police sources telling us the young children were stabbed to death by their own mother. It happened just before 8 this evening here in the Mount Hope section of the Bronx. We've learned the building the family lives in on Echo Place is also used as a family shelter. Detectives close to the investigation say after the mother stabbed her kids, she tried to burn the building down. We talked with the neighbors shortly after the kids were brought out naked on a stretcher. Take a listen.
We don't know what's going on with him. I just heard them yelling and screaming. He kept saying, screaming, help me, help me, help me. That's when he brought the boys out. They were naked and blood all over them.
The father told you that the mom did that to the babies? Or?
Yeah, he said she killed them. She killed them.
Again, just a horrific story out here in the Bronx tonight. We're told that mother is now in police custody. The father is being questioned at this hour.
Heartbreaking new developments in a tragedy rocking a neighborhood in the Bronx. 2 children found stabbed to death. their mother arrested by police. The unfathomable crime scene playing out inside a family shelter. And tonight we have new information on what first drew police to the apartment on Echo Place. And there are questions tonight about that response. News 4's Adam Harding reports from Mount Hope.
Well, just an incredibly difficult story. The victims here, 3 years old and 11 months old. Within the hour, we got an update from investigators. Tonight, they tell us the children's mother is in custody, but has not been charged.
Tonight, this Bronx neighborhood is reeling. A memorial outside 246 Echo Place now growing for the two little boys killed late Saturday. Investigators taking their 22-year-old mother into custody.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's very horrible. It's heartbreaking.
Shannon Holyfield lives next door. She says she heard an argument, then saw the father carrying both children in desperate need of help.
He was screaming hysterically, screaming, "Help me." And I came in to open my door and I see him coming down the hall with the two boys in his arms. He was scared. He was hysterical. It's very horrible. It was sad. It was really sad. It was messy. It was selfish. It was just wrong.
Police say they were first called to the home because the children's mother was acting erratically. It wasn't until after they took her away by ambulance they got multiple 911 calls urging officers to return to the scene immediately. The children were discovered in a bathtub suffering from multiple stab wounds.
Patrol officers returned to the apartment where they found an 11-month-old baby boy and a 3-year-old male unresponsive with stab wounds, multiple stab wounds about the body. Officers and another family member attempted to resuscitate the children until the ambulance arrived. I don't think that's something you can ever get used to. We all process in our own ways. The police officers responded. I think they did a great job. And it's something that, that they're going to have to live with and think about probably for the rest of their lives.
The building is a family shelter. Tonight, DSS saying in a statement, this is an incredibly heartbreaking and shocking tragedy. We offer our deepest condolences to all who have been impacted and stand ready to provide them with any support they need during this incredibly difficult time.
They're babies, them boys didn't deserve that.
At the time, we're told from investigators they believed one of the children's father had the two kids with him at the time. Tonight, family friends are leaning on each other as the investigation continues.
To this memorial throughout the day to drop off balloons and candles and write messages for the two boys. The memorial continues to grow as people continue to mourn and ask why the mother remains in police custody.
I see a lady that she was working like acting crazy. She was going like that, then what I did. So I asked her, "Yo, miss, you okay?" She go like that, she see me, and she don't tell me nothing, she just go like that again.
Francis Pimentel says he just knew something was terribly wrong after he encountered a woman frantically pacing on Echo Place Saturday night. He was devastated to later learn the woman is the mother of the two young boys that investigators say were found with multiple stab wounds inside an apartment. This neighbor does not want to show her face, but says she smelled smoke and then heard yelling.
I heard the father yelling, "Help me." And I live on the second floor, so it happened on the third. So I did notice when all the EMTs were coming, I went out to the hallway to see a puddle of water on the second floor. So I was just, trying to figure out what was going on in the building. And I heard them saying, "Help me, help me, help them."
Police say they first responded to reports of an emotionally disturbed person and saw a 22-year-old woman acting erratically. She was taken to St. Barnabas Hospital for psychological evaluation. Minutes later, they got another 911 call for an assault at the same location. That's when cops found the two boys, an 11-month-old and a 3-year-old who had been stabbed multiple times in the neck and torso. Paramedics tried to resuscitate them before rushing them to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, but it was too late.
The baby, I don't know. The boy, very happy kid. He played with my niece in the park.
Neighbors who live in the building, which is part rented apartments and part city-run shelter, recalled seeing the woman in the days before the boys were killed. They say the family has lived in the building for less than a year and wish there was more security there.
The mother just always looked like she was proud of it. She just looked like she was always sad.
A spokesperson for the Department of Social Services told us, quote, "This is an incredibly heartbreaking and shocking tragedy. We offer our deepest condolences to all who have been impacted and stand ready to provide them with any support they need during this incredibly difficult time."
We have to stick together because this right here, how can we prevent this from happening again? You understand? we have to look out for each other better than what we do now. People say this is not my business, this is not my concern. Maybe this could have been prevented.
Again, the mother of the two boys is in police custody, but she has not been charged. Meantime, the Administration for Children's Services and the NYPD are working together in this investigation.
And yeah, this story is absolutely devastating and heartbreaking for this family involved, but also for this community at large. There's really no other way to describe it but to say heartbreaking and devastating. I can tell you, though, that this investigation is ongoing right now. We are still awaiting more details, some clarification about exactly what happened. But in the meantime, I want to give you a live look behind me right now, because you can see already here candles have been lit. A candlelight vigil, of sorts has been found. You can see people here at the scene. You can see people have written, "Rest baby boys." So extremely, extremely sad. Also, gone too soon, rest in peace. Now, police tell us it was inside this building behind me where two brothers, an 11-month-old baby and a 3-year-old boy, were killed. Both of them had been stabbed multiple times in the neck and torso. Police say officers were called to the Concourse Gardens apartment building, which they describe as a family shelter, around 7:30 Saturday night for reports of a female acting erratic. When they arrived, officers quickly took the naked 24-year-old woman, identified as the children's mother, into custody.
Prior to leaving for the hospital, a family friend informed officers that the aged's children were with their father. Shortly after, the female was transported around 7:55 p.m. A second 911 call was received reporting two unresponsive babies not breathing at the same location. Patrol officers returned to the apartment where they found an 11-month-old baby boy and a 3-year-old male unresponsive with multiple stab wounds about the body.
Police officers and the father attempted to resuscitate the children, but it was too late.
It's horrible. I can't even fathom this. It's a sad situation,
That's right.
Very sad.
So as of this morning, we are told by police that the mother remains in a medical facility of sorts, but right now charges have not been filed. She's also not been officially arrested, but police tell us they are expecting an update on that sometime throughout the day. In the meantime, the father, in this case, is not considered a suspect.
Young victims of a horrific double murder in the Bronx. Their mother, who's been charged in connection with their deaths, still in custody.
Well, this story is absolutely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking for everyone involved, including this community at large. You can see behind me that a memorial is building for those two little boys, those two little brothers who were killed here in the Mount Hope section of the Bronx over the weekend. I can tell you that they were found inside of this apartment building, inside of their own home, inside of a bathtub that was overflowing. They were covered in clothes, and both of them had been stabbed multiple times in the neck and torso.
The boys have now been identified as 11-month-old Octavius Fleming Canada and 3-year-old Deshaun Fleming. Their mother, 22-year-old Damone Fleming, is now facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of depraved indifference to a person less than 11 years old. For so many in this community, this story has left them heartbroken.
The baby, I don't know. The boy, very happy kid. He played with my niece in the park. We have to stick together, because this right here, how can we prevent this from happening again? You understand? We have to look out for each other better than what we do now.
The tragedy unfolded inside of the Concourse Gardens apartments building in the Mount Hope section of the Bronx Saturday evening. Officers responding to calls of a female acting erratic took the mother into custody. Shortly after, they were called back to the unit where they found the boys, who'd been stabbed multiple times.
I heard the father yelling, "Help me." And I live on the 2nd floor, so it happened on the 3rd. So I did notice when all the EMTs were coming, I went out to the hallway, I did see a puddle of water on the 2nd floor. So I was just, trying to figure out what was going on in the building. And I heard them saying, help me, help them.
The building is part rented apartments and part city-run shelter. A spokesperson for the Department of Social Services told us, quote, "This is an incredibly heartbreaking and shocking tragedy. We offer our deepest condolences to all who have been impacted and stand ready to provide them with any support they need during this incredibly difficult time."
So this remains a developing story, but at this hour, we can tell you that the mother in the case remains in a hospital. That's where she was taken, according to police, after the incident for a psychiatric evaluation, and we're hearing that she will be there for some time.
Mother of 2 young boys found dead with stab wounds in a bathtub in the Bronx. Faces criminal charges and may be arraigned as soon as tonight.
CBS 2's Christy Kalishian spoke with one of the boys' fathers.
Rest easy, young kings. Just one of the many messages written on the memorial sitting outside the shelter. 3-year-old Deshaun Fleming and 11-month-old Octavius Fleming, Canada, were found dead in a bathtub on Saturday. The two boys are half-brothers, both related to their mom, 22-year-old DeMonet Fleming, also known as Brenda. The family of 11-month-old Fleming, Canada's father, Columbus, Canada, read from a written statement.
The tragedy that has unfolded to our family has us heartbroken. We're at a loss for words, but we would like to thank everyone for their thoughts and prayers.
Fleming, Canada, and the two boys lived in a shelter in the Bronx. Canada's family commenting on the shelter system in the city, run by ACS, Administration for Children's Services.
All family shelters need to be more professional and more hands-on with the family safety and mindful of the residents of the shelter around the city.
The ACS saying in a statement, quote, "The safety and well-being of New York City's children is our top priority. We are investigating this case with the NYPD.
My daughter's not a bad child. You know, I raised her myself, so I know her.
We spoke with Fleming's father, who lives in Pennsylvania. He says he spoke with his daughter just before police were called on her Saturday, saying she felt smothered in her relationship, but wasn't threatening to hurt others or herself.
I really didn't understand how the police came and the ambulance came and they took her away and didn't check on my grandkids.
Funeral arrangements for the boys are still being made by Fleming's family. They're hoping it will take place around December 17th. In the Mount Hope section of the Bronx, Christy Kalishian, CBS 2 News.
And police are still yet to confirm whether the boys died due to the stabbing or drowning in the bathtub. DeMonet may be arraigned as soon as tonight. Police sources say she is still in St. Barnabas Hospital.